Alright boys, welcome back to the BBR. Today we are playing Amo, who you can check out in the top right hand corner, and I am pumped for this one, man, because me and Amo have had some of, in my opinion, the best games on Wi-Fi. Two of the best players on Wi-Fi, and the games that we've had are fantastic. I always look forward to playing Amo. We've had some great battles, especially in BBR throughout the years. We had the semifinals matchup that was won on a sucker punch 50-50. We had, of course, the game last year, which was one of the only games I've ever seen go to timer in this new Paldea timer. So we have some fantastic games, man, and hopefully this one is no different. Before we go any further though, I do want to apologize. I am feeling not very good, as you cannot tell. I think I'm in a good mind state to play my game, but my throat is killing me, so talking is going to be a little rough. I'm going to try to get through this team builder into the live com because I really don't like doing post cons. I've done maybe one a season because of emergencies or what have you, but I want to avoid it if possible. It might be inevitable though. We'll see how it goes. Last week we lost. We didn't play the in-game perfectly. There were a couple of outs, but obviously everything is hindsight. Knowing that the Heatran was offensive would have changed how I played things, and maybe I should have played for it, but unfortunately we lost 1-0 in a very close way to Goldoa, who played very well in my opinion. So shout out to Goldoa, but now we are moving forward with a vengeance in mind, with a chip on our shoulder, as we're going to try to move into 2-1 against Amo. Amo, for the first time in a while, drafted a real team, and it's a little scary. So let's see what Amo has. We're going to see the Terrapagos, the Petrarant, the Weavile, the Landorus, Sylveon, Garganacl, Terra Water, and Steel Araquanid, Azelf, Hisuian, Lilligant, and Oshawott. As far as the mons that I think Amo will bring, I think Terrapagos is in every matchup type of Pokemon. I think it comes here guaranteed. As far as its set, the set against the specific team I'm bringing that can beat us is Rock Polish, Calm Mind, Flamethrower, and Terra Starstorm. But the set that I think is more realistic is one of Rock Polish or Calm Mind, and then those two attacking moves plus Ice Beam. He could also bring something funky. It's Amo, man. You never know with him. But realistically, those are the two best sets in this matchup. He could be some sort of a spinner as well. He could be, I don't know, man. It's Amo. It's a good Pokemon. It's going to come here no matter what. The other Pokemon that I think comes no matter what is going to be Mandorus. Big Landorus. I think this Pokemon does fantastic into us. Obviously, I do think he's going to be some form of a Life Orb set. He needs some sort of ground coverage, whether it's Earth Power or Sansir Storm, and he needs Psychic to be able to hit our Slitherwing. The other two moves are a little bit more up in the air. He could be Crunch. I think Crunch is extremely likely, but if I'm Fizdef Slowbro, obviously Slowbro stuffs that pretty well. He could be Rocks. I think Rocks makes a lot of sense. He could be Taunt for a lot of my fat. He could be U-Turn. He could be a Pivot, but no matter what, I do think those first two moves always come, and they're very difficult for my team to switch into. And then the last mon that I think comes no matter what is going to be Araquanid. Terra Water Araquanid is very difficult for my team to deal with. I am specifically scared of a physically offensive Terra Water Araquanid, but I do think especially offensive Terra Water Araquanid makes a lot of sense. I even think Terra Steel Araquanid could make an appearance, but that's not the one that I'm as worried about as the other Terra Water set. The set that I played in Mox, shout out to Obo again for the Mox, by the way, it was like Infestation, Liquidation, Leech Life, and Protect, and that set does do good. I do think there are better sets. I don't think webs ever come to me. I have two forms of removal, a lot of things that don't really care about webs, like Kilowattrel, and of course I do have Clear Body Dragapult. Webs don't make a ton of sense to me, but if Amo doesn't think that he needs a fourth move, he could definitely throw webs on the set, just as a safety net in case I'm not Clear Body, I'm not Boots Chuu, I'm Terra Kilowattrel, whatever the case may be. He could bring it as a safety net, but Araquanid, difficult for us to deal with. He could even be AV for our Chuu. That would make a lot of sense. The rest of the slots are extremely up in the air. I think Weavile makes a lot of sense. Just a banded set puts me in a lot of bad situations. I never see Swords Dance coming because he would have to be Protect if he was Swords Dance to cover the first impression Slitherwing, and I don't think Knockoff plus Crash is enough. I think he's also going to need at least Shard. I think Garg could make an appearance, but Garg obviously is kind of a momentum stuffer, especially with Amo's very offensive team, so I don't think it's the best mod in the matchup, but if he wants a rocker that's not Landorus, it would make a lot of sense. Petrarant could come, although I really doubt it just because it always lets in Chuu, and his team doesn't switch in the best to Chuu other than a potential AV Araquanid, which by the way could be Mirror Coat. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but we're going to have to think about that when we play around Araquanid. But Petrarant could come as just like a parting shot bot. I like all my top tier threats it loses to, but it does prevent the SD Scizor from sweeping, which I think it might be important depending on Amo's game plan. I don't think Sylveon ever comes. Sylveon's very bad into me. If it does come, I'd be a little surprised. Scizor, Makalola, and Tinkaton on top of Dragapult being able to U-turn in those mons, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Azelf, again, another Pokemon that gets stuffed by a lot of what I have. I don't really think it comes. And then Hisuian Lilligant does very, very well in the matchup. There are some stipulations to that, like it could would not come. If it comes, it's going to be Victory Dance, Ice Spin, or Close Combat, Leaf Blade, almost inevitably. There's not really another move that he could put in one of those slots. It's Sleep Powder, if anything, but he doesn't really want to take off one of those moves because then he's not going to hit something. If he is Victory Dance, which is something that is definitely scary, that would make sense, but if he doesn't bring it and he opts for more of a defensive build, I think that also makes sense. But Lilligant does do very well into my team, don't get me wrong. As far as the team that we are bringing, I cannot believe I'm about to say this. The first Pokemon that we're bringing is going to be Bramblegast. Bramblegast is very important here, and I'm not joking. We're Spikes, we're Strength Sap, or we're Spin, and we're Power Whip. This is because I kept getting mopped by Araquanid in mocks, and what better to beat an Araquanid than a Bramblegast. Spikes are pretty good into Amo's team. He doesn't have the most reliable removal. It's Terapagos, which, don't get me wrong, super reliable, but in this matchup, not so much, and we can block Spin. Strength Sap keeps us healthy and lets us beat that Araquanid one-on-one. Rapid Spin lets us keep hazards off of our side of the field. Power Whip specifically to let us beat a Terra Water Araquanid, so we can actually hit the thing that we're meant to check, which is very important. We're 96 HP, we are 0 attack adamant, max defense, and 160 speed. We can OHKO the Araquanid with max HP with our Power Whip once he is Terra Water, and we can actually outspeed Weavile at +1, which is a little... I didn't expect that, to be honest. And then we just went the rest in the physical defense, since this is here to check a physically offensive Araquanid. Araquanid is pretty weak, especially, so if he is something like an Ice Beam, Hydro Pump set, we'll deal with it accordingly. We're going to be Infiltrator because Amo doesn't have anything to abuse Wind Rider on his team. And wait till I tell you the Pokemon that we put Bramblegast in over this week. We put Bramblegast over Dragapult. Dragapult, we originally had a Screens Pult in this slot, and I decided it was just not doing enough in this very poor Dragapult matchup. He's got Garg, Terapagos, Sylveon. He has the Weavile to revenge us. It was a very poor Dragapult matchup, and with the team that I built, Bramblegast does what it needed to a little bit better. Our next Pokemon is going to be Chuu. We're going to be a Scarf variant this week. I was originally Specs, and I thought it did massive damage and was doing very well, but since we put Dragapult off of the team, I wanted that revenge option for things like Hisuian Lilligant, Landorus, and Weavile, so I thought Scarf for this was going to be a little bit better. A pretty standard set: Overheat, Fire Blast, Flamethrower, and Dark Pulse. Amo doesn't really have great resist to these two stab options that we have, so we're going to take advantage of it as best as we can. Araquanid, again, is the main issue to this, but it takes a lot of damage from Dark Pulse, man. We're 104 HP, 152 attack modest, 12 defense, and 240 speed. Our speed allows us to outspeed the Terapagos. Our HP investment allows us to live a +1 modest Terra Blast Starstorm from the Terapagos. Then we went the rest in the special attack modest. Chuu's purpose is to pressure a KO on something that otherwise we might not be able to, like the Landorus comes in and gets a KO, we KO it back with something like Dark Pulse. So Chuu is very important here for just that, and hard for Amo to switch into once that Araquanid does get pretty much any amount of chip. Our next Pokemon is gonna be Zaba, the Landorus. We're a bulky SD set this week: Stealth Rock, Swords Dance, Earthquake, and Fly. Amo does not have good Earthquake resist on his team. It's kind of just Landorus and I guess Azelf as well, and Hisuian Lilligant. We're able to fly on those Pokemon and do tons of damage. We have to be careful flying on the Araquanid, but we can fly on the Landorus and surprise him and do a ton of damage to it or anything that wants to switch in, because his flying resist is Garganacl, and Garganacl does not want to take the Earthquakes, and this is our check for Garg, because we are Covert Cloak specifically because of Garg. Do I think he's going to bring Garg? No. I would rather have the Covert Cloak than not, though, just in case. 40 HP, 196 attack, 64 special defense, and 208 speed. Jolly. This Pokemon is going to outspeed the Terapagos as well. I find that very important in case he is a Calm Mind, not a Rock Polish set. We can OHKO the Landorus with a +2 fly. We can take a Terapagos Starstorm at +1 if he is not modest. This is if he's the Double Dance set and might not be Ice Beam. And then we had 76 left over that we dumped into attack. This Pokemon can break, but primarily is here to switch into Garg and be very annoying for Amo to try to deal with in any capacity. We have our Weavile check next, Scizor. We're going to be Rocky Helmet to easily switch in on the Weavile. We're Swords Dance, Bullet Punch, U-Turn, as well as Aerial Ace. Swords Dance is just kind of, if Petra isn't here, we didn't really need a last move. I debated a couple of things: Bug Bite, Lunge, Knockoff. Defog even, but ultimately I decided Sword Stance in case he doesn't have Pecharunt can be very good for the in-game, and once we get chip on the Terapagos, +2 Bullet Punch is no joke. We have U-Turn because that's a very free click on the Weavile. We U-Turn on what might be the Pecharunt coming in, or the Araquanid or something like that coming in, and we get momentum accordingly, and then Aerial Ace to prevent the Hisuian Lilligant from setting up in our face. We're 168 HP, 92 attack, and then 248 defense with an impish nature. We are of course Technician, and this Pokemon is just here for the Weavile, but we might be able to squeeze out a little cheeky Scizor in-game if we don't see Pecharunt. Next up, we have no remnant of a Landorus check on our team, so Slowbro is going to try his best. I feel like I said that last week too. We had no remnant of a Wake check on our team, so we had Slowbro trying his best. So Slowbro is the almost check to a lot of things. We're AV Future Sight, we're Size Shock to beat a potential Calm Mind Terapagos. I say beat very loosely, by the way, to do damage to a Calm Mind Terapagos as well as an Araquanid. Scald the Fish for burns, and then Ice Beam to guarantee Oko that potential Landorus or do damage to the Lilligant without having to click Size Shock. There could have been a better last move, but I couldn't really find one. For 176 HP, 60 defense bold, 28 special attack, and 244 speed def. This Slowbro will definitely try to check the Landorus. We can take 2 Earth Powers after Rocks from the Landorus. We Oko with the Ice Beam. We can take 2 non-invested crunches most of the time. And this is gonna be our almost check to Landorus. It's also our check to a Rock Polish non-Calm Mind Terapagos, because it does do that job also very well. We'll have to pivot out a couple of times for regen, but no problem. We obviously are a regenerator Slowbro and can do that. And then lastly, making its debut this season. Finally, it's about time. We have Kilowattrel, Terra Kilowattrel, and we are going to be Terra Water this week, so Weavile cannot revenge us with Ice Shard. We are U-Turn, Air Slash, Thunderbolt, and Terra Blast. We're U-Turn over Volt Switch, so we don't get Mirror Coated by the Araquanid. We're Air Slash over Hurricane, because we don't want to miss if the Hisuian Lilligant gets to +1, because we are Scarf to outspeed a +1 Hisuian Lilligant. Thunderbolt for General Stab, and Terra Blast does well into Landorus as well as Guard. We're 8 HP, 88 defense, 236 special attack, and 176 speed timid. We can outspeed the Azelf because I do think it's possible that if Azelf comes, maybe it is Scarf, so I want to cover for that. We live in Adamant, Life Orb, Lilligant close combat, which I think that's non-Terra. And then we went the rest into special attack. This is going to be our guaranteed lead. I do want to get this Terra off pretty early. That way we can pivot on the Araquanid if need be. And it's a good lead. We can U-turn pretty much into whatever we want to. Get a Terra Blast off on whatever we want to. I think this matches up well against most things. So more times than not, this will be our lead. But I will be debating something like the Bramble Gast during the actual match, probably. And that's going to be the team. It's going to be pretty simple. We just try to outlast Amo in this battle. We try to get in our Chuu and our Kilo pretty early. We don't have a guaranteed win con, which is something I'm a little uncomfortable with, but we do have, I think, the tools to definitely win this game, and I think it'll be a great game against Amo. Again, I apologize for being sick. Check out Amo and all the other BBR coaches down below, and be sure to check out the match tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.